Hey everyone, it's Arknight here, and today we're going to jump into another Core Set 2021 draft. But first, I'm just going to outline what some of my thoughts are on the format so far. Um, so, what I fundamentally think defines the format is that there is a lot of filler and very few cards that actually end up mattering. And a lot of the format revolves around making your filler matter. And this often manifests itself into aggressive decks where a 2/2 for 2 attacks and trades off and so on and so forth, and you get value that way. And the slower decks have to work a bit harder in order to make their filler do things. And then you have the cards that matter. Now, this in a normal format would be your bombs, your dragons, your planeswalkers, so on and so forth. But in this format, I think that's a bit reductive, and you could also include cards like Basri's Acolyte, Roman Ghostlighter, common, that fundamentally affect the board in very powerful ways and turn the board to your advantage. And these two in particular are the premier two at common, and they also lend themselves to aggressive decks. So I think the format being aggressive is a little bit of a simplification, but with these ideas in mind, we're going to jump into the draft and see how it goes. All right, here we go. Pack one, pick one. We have a very powerful card for older formats Inconspicuous Snoop, but there aren't any goblins with relevant activated abilities in the set, and we're not going to take a hard to cast 2-drop. And yeah, so all the cards I like are blue or going blue-red, and Spellgorge are weird. So the choice is between Riddleform and Roaming Ghostlight, in my opinion. I think Capture Sphere is good, but not as good as Ghostlight. And I think Ghostlight goes in more decks. I'm quite happy playing it in blue-white, blue-red, blue-black, blue-green, whereas Riddleform, you really want to be blue-red, as it's got the best sort of proactive spells. So I think Ghostlight's the best first pick here, which is something I'm sure I'm going to say many times during this format. And to follow up, we get what looks to be an excellent rare. Volcanic Salvo, while it looks intimidating with its 12 mana cost, with just a couple of creatures on board, it's potentially it's going to be 6 mana. If you have more creatures on board than that, you can easily pay 2 mana to destroy 2 of your opponent's creatures or planeswalkers, which in my mind is a fantastic deal, and I'd take it over any common or uncommon that I can think of. So yeah, maybe there are uncommons I'd take it over, but because that's what the person on our right has done. Other good cards in the pack, I think Rise Again's actually quite important for the black decks, as it's their sort of powerful thing they can do to swing a game at common. Deathbloom Fallid is another super solid card. Fidelian Arcanist is solid, but otherwise the pack is again filler. White one drops probably a bit more valuable in this format because of Basri Acolyte, but definitely not coming close to the Salvo. Okay, so here we've got, again, a rare that's very good in Eternal formats. In Containment Priest, a couple of sort of more build-aroundy uncommons that aren't really important to, I think. Feat of Resistance, very good. Mistral Singer is very good. Another Roman Ghostlight is excellent and gives us a nice thing to build towards. Turn to Slag is your sort of run-of-the-mill removal, and I think Drowsing Pteranodon's actually very useful in your green decks, because either green-red is going to enable the 4-power clause very easily, or green-white is very good at putting a counter on the Pteranodon, making it a 4/4 on its own. But the Ghostlight goes very nicely with our first picks. I don't see enough of an incentive to go for the Pteranodon, so Roaming Ghostlight it is. I think it's just a better card than Turn to Slag. Okay, more of an interesting pack here. So, Havoc Jester is mostly just a 5 mana 5/5 in this format, and because we've already got 2 5-drops, I'm not particularly excited to take it. Frost Breath is a card I'm actually quite keen on in this format. It plays nicely into the Roman Ghostlight tempo-y sort of plan. And otherwise, there's just nothing that appealing in this pack. Anointed Chorus is another one of the cards that I think is better than usual in this format, because the white decks are wanting to be aggressive and it's easy to buff it up with counters, and then having it have lifelink means that pumping your mana into this means it's less likely for you to lose a race when you have to do that. Crash Through is a card I like in my blue-red decks. Ranger's Guile, I'll play one in my green decks, but otherwise nothing particularly exciting here, so I think I'm just going to take the Frost Breath and try and stay tempo-y. Alright, that's a really nice indication. Seeing a 5th pick Spellgorger Weird is certainly encouraging. Another Pteranodon, also an indication that green might be a good place to be. Silversmoke Ghoul would be a powerful card if there were actually enough enablers for it. I just don't see the black-white decks coming together that often. But otherwise, Silversmoke Ghoul's a fantastic card. Playing it in Modern Dredge apparently now, so definitely a powerful effect. But here, it's just hard to look past the Spellgorger Weird. Alright. Again, another Rise Again. So seeing 2 in the first pack is pretty keen. But again, we've got good blue and red options, so I'm not looking to move off it. I think Unleash Fury is not particularly good. I think most of the time it's just going to be +3/+0, which is not really what I want my combat tricks to do. So I think I'll pick this between Read the Tides and Turn to Slag. And it's pretty close, actually. I think I prefer Read the Tides marginally. It's just a bit more versatile. Like, Turn to Slag just kills a creature. It doesn't do anything more, anything less. With a couple of expensive spells, Vidalian Arcanist is quite appealing, but taking a rare land that's fully on colour is pretty nice, actually. And we've already got 6 playables. We're pretty dialed in on blue-red at this point, to be honest. I don't think we're likely to move off it, so taking this land, we're always going to play it. It's just good, solid card. Alright, here we take a 2-drop. It gives us a little bit extra reach. It gets on the board early. Nothing too fancy. Spine Megalodon's quite good in the Rise Again blue-black decks, I think. And actually, you can play one as the top end of your blue decks, but with 2 Roaming Ghostlights and a Volcanic Salvo, we've got some top end already. Don't really need to look too much harder than that. We've wheeled the Riddle Form from our opening pack, which is an excellent, excellent sign that this deck is open. So we're going to take that and be very happy about it. We're going to try and lean marginally more aggressive with Riddle Form, I think, but I don't want to play Wall of Runes. As far as cards go, I'm much happier playing an Arcanist, and Igneous Curse fine, but still not excited. Fury of the Bin has its place, but that place is not here. Hopefully we can wheel some of the Crash throws. A Mistral Singer this late is actually really good as well. So this draft seems to be going pretty well, if I'm completely honest. We're not going to play any of these, so let's just put it in the sideboard. Probably not playing a Structured Tampering. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy after this first pack. Our curve's not terrible, and we've got some good cards. And a pretty solid plan. We could move off red. We have only got 3 red cards, but 2 of them are very good and 1 of them's decent. So if we saw a Baneslayer Angel or something, we could consider moving into blue-white, but we haven't. We have a Baron Tolarian Archmage, which plays nicely with our Spellgorger, not a Spellgorger Weirds, our Roaming Ghostlights, just bounce all of our opponent's stuff. And I think that's marginally better than Soulseer. Very good removal spell, but yeah, Mana War with upside seems nice. And we can also bounce our own things for value even with this, which who knows what comes down to. There's a Challenger's Magma and a Lofty Denial we might wheel out of this pack. But overall, this is a pretty strong pack actually, with a Finishing Blow, the Soulseer, Deathbloom Thallid, the Gnarled Sage is pretty good. But yeah, we're going to take our rare and be happy about it. We're not going to take this rare, though. Demonic Embrace, powerful card, but obviously not for our deck. What are we going to take here? We could take a second Rise of Tides. I will play 2 if I have to, but we've already got a couple of big spells already. I'm much happier looking for cheap spells. Rousing Reed I could see having a place in this deck. Putting it on a big Spellgorger Weird seems pretty brutal. We're going to have a few 2-drops that we can put to the skies. I think I like it more than the Bone Pit Brute. Miscast's a little bit situational. Tolarian Kraken, kind of replaceable top end. Very good, but we don't need to go out of our way for 6-drops in this deck, because, let's face it, there are 3 we could have taken in this pack, so I'm going to take the Rousing Reed. We might not end up playing it, but still decent. So I'm not desperate to play a second Frost Breath, and the fact we've already got one piece of fixing that means I'm not looking desperately to take a Fabled Passage, and I don't think this is a combat trick deck either. So perhaps we're taking Igneous Cur here. Actually, no, I think I would like to take the Volgdalian Arcanist here, because that gives us flexibility to play a second copy of Read the Tides even. And yeah, just sort of gums up the ground and we attack him with flyers. It's a reasonable chance we wield the Frost Breath. See the Truth is a nice card if you can cast it from your graveyard, which we can't in this set, so Sorcery Speed anticipates, on balance, I think worse than a Thriller Possibility, especially if we end up getting either of the uncommons in Kinetic Augur or whatever the gold card's called. Is it Experimental Overload? Experimental Overload. Both want us to dump instants into all sorceries into our graveyard. I think that's better than the Teferi's Protege overall, with it being an instant itself. So I'll take that. Try not to hold up the draft. So third Arcanist or second Rousing Reed here. Not a Rise Again and a Carrion Grub here, so we maybe could have ended up in a decent blue-black deck. But I'm going to stay the course with blue-red here. I think a second Rousing Reed has more upside than a second Alien Arcanist. Here, again, nothing particularly exciting. I'm inclined to take one of these 4-drops. And I think Turret Ogre fits the bill a bit better. I think it's just a better body than a 4-3. I prefer a 4-3 than a 2-5. Although with the number of flyers, maybe a 2-5 is better. Maybe Volcanic Salvo tips the scales. Let's take Turret Ogre. There's our blue-black uncommon that we're not going to take here. I think we're going to take Thriller Possibility, but I would like to call out Short Sword as a card that's been better than I expected. Again, making your filler creatures better is definitely something that's played out quite well in this set, and Short Sword's a relatively low-risk way to do that, that costs a few mana over the course of the game, but it goes to good use. In a deck with more creatures, that would be something I'd be interested in, but Thriller Possibility is what we're taking here. Again, I'm not really looking for a Bone Pit Brute, so a cancel or a miscast. I think I'm just going to take a cancel. Just a bit more reliable. Ideally, I don't want to play it, but there we have it. With the number of flyers we have, I'm actually quite into playing a Lofty Denial. And with all the Vidalian Arcanists, I think I prefer Read the Tides to a Tolarian Kraken. Actually, no, we can probably pick up another big spell. Let's take the Kraken. Yeah, we'll take the second Frost Breath here. Possibly don't play it. Then Protege. Yeah, it looks like blue's wide open. An Arcanist. Yeah, blue's wide open. So we just have to hope that we get some nice things in pack 3. Like, we've already got 25 cards in our quote-unquote deck. So it gives us some flexibility to take the cards that we really want, rather than the cards that we think we need. Because we've already got a decent number of 2 and 3 drops, so we don't need to worry too much about our curve. Like, I probably don't want to play 3 Arcanists unless we get a lot of big spells, but there we go. Not going to take the rare in this pack, unsurprisingly. But I'm very happy with another Spellgorger Weird. It's probably one of the best creatures we can get at common for our deck. We didn't wheel the Magmut in pack 2, but again, there's a chance we manage it in this pack. We've got a couple of good red cards here in the Bolthound and Leafkin Avenger. But otherwise, not that exciting a pack, so we'll see. And here we have another one of those packs that doesn't really have a lot we're excited about. Really not looking to play a third Frost Breath, and Rookie Mistake's just a bit low impact. I don't really want a second cancel, so on that basis that I'm not looking to play any of these, I'm probably not looking to play a Bone Brute, but it's a card we don't really have an analogue for. It probably butts up against the Tolarian Kraken somewhat, but it's more unique than the other effects we have. There's just a higher chance we play it. Here we're going to be taking Crash Through, just a cheap instant to sort of grease the wheels of our deck. We haven't seen any opts in the draft yet, which are ideally better than Crash Through, but giving you Spellgorger Weird's Trample, definitely not inconsequential. And again, like Tyrant Ogre, Pitchbone Devils, they're cards we could play. Same with the Igneous Current and the Sky Scanner, but Crash Through does something that our deck doesn't otherwise already have. And here, ooh, nice. Some nice options here, actually. So it's very hard to look past a Soulseer. We've not got a ton of removal. We've got some bounce spells. We've got our Salvo. But we don't have actually any red removal spells apart from the Salvo, so I think we want to take up the Soulseer. And you never know, maybe we wheel the second Read the Tides, or the Goblin Wizards. I'm actually quite into the Goblin Wizards. I don't think our deck is quite aggressive enough to take full advantage of them, but it's a good card that, in theory, only the blue-red deck's after. Okay, on the basis that there's a reasonable chance we wheel the Wizards, it's a card that I think gets better in multiples, up to a point, and I think I like that more than Turn to Slag. What we're looking at, we've got a good mix of creatures and non-creatures. And I'm definitely not interested in Tome Anima. Let's take the Wizards. That might be wrong. King Glidemaster, I suppose, is an easy pick. Not much to say about it. It's fine. Here we're happy to pick up another Mistral Singer, but yeah, a late Watcher of the Spheres and some nice blue-white cards here. Ooh, very late Shipwreck Dowser. Nice. That's a very nice pickup with a decent number of instants and sorceries, especially some high impact ones like Soulseer, like Volcanic Salvo, like Read the Tides that we can recycle. I'm not likely to play any of these, so I'm going to say Lofty Dial because I like the card wall. Not taking well, I'm not playing any of these, but Frostbirth, I suppose. And yeah, we're probably not playing either of these. Let's just put Frostbreath on the sideboard. Ooh, Wizards or Read the Tides? I think Wizards are better. You can sort of do some setty things with them. And we've got plenty of top end. More Frostbreaths. And an Ordinary Dilphosaur to close out the draft. So, yeah, pretty happy with the draft. It certainly could have gone better. We've taken some duplicate rares, so extra gems. So now we are going to look to build the deck. We're not going to include any of these cards, so we're going to switch out the layout and split our spells and creatures. Right, so we have about 10 cuts to make. So we're going to have to be pretty clinical. So let's get rid of the Bone Pit Brute. And one of these 4-drops. Let's start with the Crab Protege, because I actually really like our 3-drops. Cuckling Glidemaster, because all our creatures sort of dominate combat already. Actually, maybe jumping the Spellgorger Weirds and the Kraken's worth it. It's probably better than the 3rd Arcanist, come to think of it, so we can trim an Arcanist later. As far as the spells, I like both our 6-drops, I like both Wizards. Can probably trim the Cancel, one of the Rousing Reeds, and probably one of the Frost Breaths. We didn't get any of the cards that care about number of instants and sorceries in our graveyard, so we don't need to be filling them out aggressively, so we could probably cut a Thrill of Possibility, which leaves us one. Maybe we cut this as well. Can't split piles. So it's got 5, 6, 7, 8 cuts. 9 cuts. Yeah, let's see what that looks like. What would I cut? I'd probably cut the Turret Ogre here. Because the wizards are basically 4-drop creatures. And this plays a sort of moderately aggressive tempo-y game. We've got 3 bounce creatures, and 1 nice removal spell and 1 ridiculous removal spell. We can also use Read the Tides as a double bounce to push damage through. We can use the Kraken to push damage through by tapping things. We've got the Frost Breath to push damage through by tapping things. And then we've got Riddleform Mistral Singers in the sky with the Ghost Lights, a couple of bodies on the ground. Yeah, this looks pretty nice, actually. Maybe one of the solid 4-drops would be valuable here, but I think we're going to stick with this. So let's jump into the games. Alrighty then, so we've got a really nice solid hand for round 1. Pretty happy to keep that. We get to scry on turn 1, play a 2-drop into a 3-drop, and then we have some spells. I'm going to keep the land on top because it means we hit our land drops, and if we hit too many lands, we've got the Thrill of Possibility to discard one of them. So no problems there. We're going to ask our opponent what's the matter. That's Magmut. Okay, so we can push in through that Imp. We're probably going to discard a mountain to our Thrill of Possibility next turn. But our opponent's going to have to slow down their progression to the board or leave up mana for the Fetid Imp, which we can play around or into as we see fit. Because either our opponent has to play another 2-drop, nothing, or hold up mana, which suits me nicely. So we're definitely going to be casting Thrill of Possibility this turn, so we might as well start with that, see what other cards we draw and get the most information. It's a reasonable likelihood that the Singer trades for the Imp, but that's not particularly avoidable. I don't think Frost Breath is worth casting just to get a 33 damage. And yeah, it looks like our opponents spent their turn 3 to trade their 2-drop for our 3-drop. It's fine by me. And we're going to add the Glidemaster to the board. So not off to a terrible start. We want to be pushing damage through. Our opponents revealed they're playing 3 colours and mind rotting us. That's actually quite annoying, being low on resources already, so we're going to have to push damage through quite aggressively now. So I'm going to suit up the Glidemaster on the basis that if the Mutt can't get through damage, then it can ping things, and we're setting up to Ghostlight next turn. So we go 5 damage this turn, 5 damage next turn, and then we have 6 power in the skies. Hopefully our opponent doesn't cast a second Mind Rot. Silver Smoke Ghoul doesn't concern me too much, because we're just going to bounce it. We're going to get in for 5. And ask our opponent if they can deal with what's on the board. And hopefully they can't. And there we have it. Very quick, very clinical game 1. And off to a good start. Alright, so a nice hand for game 3. We'd like some enablers for our spellcasting creatures. But, yeah, perfectly happy. Our opponent has unfortunately had to take a mulligan. Yeah, we saw the power that Roaming Ghostlight gives us, so if we can build a board, swing it heavily in our favour with Ghostlight, we're going to be in a good position. So, yeah, not too bad. Hopefully we can draw a crash through, so we can crash through on turn 3 with one of our on turn 4 with one of our creatures while we play the other. Drowsy Pteranodon means that I would rather play the Singer first, because we're not going to be getting the Gorger to the point where it can attack through the Pteranodon first. Hopefully Black-Green isn't able to maximise the Pteranodon, but the Brontodon's a pretty good card to see, for our opponent to see here. We're going to get to Ghostlight something next turn. So that's alright. So if our opponent tries to race us, we can hopefully swing the characters back in our favour. We've hit our 6 lands, so the Tolarian Kraken can come down and start dominating the board, but yeah, that's pretty brutal. Hunter's Edge taking out one of our creatures and enabling their Pteranodon means that's what we're going to be bouncing. To turn it back off and try and keep up in this race. Yeah, big green creatures. Quite good, who'd have thought? Wasn't really much we could have done about that Hunter's Edge, sadly. And in the long run, I think it's probably beneficial that the Weird was killed and not the Singer, because based on the rest of our hand, the Weird's going to be doing not much. And now they've got the Beppo Primal Might in the fight spell department, and it hit us for a nasty 5 damage. So hopefully the Tolarian Kraken can hold down this board, and we can keep pecking away with the Mistral Singer and Chandra's Magma pinging away. The Fire Opponent does anything else too strong. Sabertooth Maul is pretty good, but we can handle it. We might as well pay 1, seeing as we're not doing anything else with our mana. And because we could draw Read the Tides, we are going to play out an extra land. And we're just going to plug up the board a bit more. Our opponent didn't seem keen to attack into the Kraken last turn, which is good for us. And our Visionary's not doing much on the board. Another land. Not we'll tap down the biggest creature, play out a land because we've still got one to discard to our thriller possibility. And we're going to keep pecking away. Castle Dreadnought would be pretty irritating to see come out from our opponent here, something like that. Gloomsower, blimey. Well, that's not ideal, because that's going to race us quite handily. It looks like our opponent's lining up an attack, which will get us down to 2 if we make profitable blocks on the Mauler and the Visionary, and then we can't block the Gloomsower. So yeah, it looks like we're going to need to draw something next turn if our opponent goes through with this attack. But they've not. Scared of what's in our hand. And Roaming Ghostlight is definitely a good draw here, because that puts our opponent under a lot of pressure. Because we bounce the Gloomsower, get in for another 2 points in the air. And then that means we're representing lethal between 2 pings and 2 attacks in the sky. So yep, Ghostlight doing its job again, swinging the board nicely in our favour. I'm going to be disappointed if it's not the most drafted card in my collection. My opponent's having a good think here, which is fair enough because this is the critical turn. They have got to do something about our board. And Hunter's Edge is definitely a good thing to do about our board. So that's going to grow the Mauler if it's not dead by the end of this turn. So yeah, it looks like we're back in the camp of needing to draw something. So I suppose Rousing Reed's the best draw now? Okay, so what spells can we get back? We can get Crash Through back, which taps down 2 of their biggest creatures. So yeah, I suppose we are going to tap stuff down. Because we can get damage in, they can't. They're going to have to block. Because we're going to have 3 in the air. So they have to block the Kraken. And if we tap down the Mauler, we're going to have 2 blockers. And none of their creatures have trample, so we could die to Garruk's 3-mana enchantment that gives all creatures trample. Okay, so we can consider attacking with the Magmut for 2 damage, but if we do that, we only have 1 blocker. They have 6 damage on board, so plus they need to find 2 damage, whereas if we leave the Magmut back, we have 2 blockers, they have 3 creatures, so they need to find 6 damage, which helps us play around Titanic Might. So we're going to kill Pteranodon, because that's able to attack. This only gets a counter on our opponent's turn. And we're going to leave the island in the hands so we have the maximum ability to tap things down with Thriller possibility next turn. So yeah, Shipwrecked Alza doing its job. Ooh, Setessan Training's Not a bad draw from our opponent. Giving them Mauler Trample. So we're now dead to Pump Spell again. Does our opponent have it? So I think we double block here, for, because the Thriller possibility means we tap down all our opponent's creatures next turn. And that should be enough to get us across the line. And this covers our opponent having a combat trick. They're not going to be able to burn us out for 7 damage. Yeah, that's fine by me. So yeah, it looks like we can tap all our opponent's creatures down and get in for lethal. And we've also got Salvo, but which we could cast. I suppose we can leave. Yeah, so we don't tap down the Visionary. Yeah, I don't think it mattered there. Our opponent was waiting to see if we messed up, and by that point we hadn't. So there we have it. Up to 2-0. All right, here we go. Another nice aggressive draw on the play against Compulsive Research. Oh, it's a lot of drawing 3 cards and discarding a land. Looks like we have an aggressive opponent though. Yep. Boros beatdowns. So let's play the Mistral Singer. Our opponent's going to get in a lot of damage. Just having lifelink is going to be very awkward. So looks like we're going to be bouncing it and getting in for 2, I think. Yes, we don't get the Riddle form turned on, and that might be a problem with our deck, is that we don't have a lot of ways to turn on our Riddle form. Do we want Spellgorger Wood? I think we do, with Rousing Reed in our hand. So our opponent could very easily have a trick here. I think it's likely they have a trick, but we're still trading Baron for a card. I think at this point we're trying to stay alive. Yeah, Scorching Dragonfire is pretty good. Not going to deny that. There comes the Chorister. So we've got the option of Goblin Wizardry as an ambush, or to build out our board and take some damage. Our opponent's going to have 5 mana though, so ambushing the Anointed Chorister isn't going to work, so I think we're just developing the Spellgorger Weird here. If our opponent has a shock, then so be it. Yeah, so there's the mana to get their Chorister active. And it'll be interesting to see whether they attack with their Immolator or not, because if they don't, that means they're conscientious of us having a spell. They're just going to kill it with a Volcanic Geyser, get in for 4. Okay, well, that's okay, because that means it's not going at our face. It's 3 mana to scry with that, so we're not doing that. Hand's not lining up particularly great here. I think we have to develop some wizards next turn. Battle Rattle Shaman's pretty good. Hopefully they're going to pump the Chorister. Well, actually, hopefully they pump the Immolator. we take 4 and put both goblins in front of the chorister, so at least we get it dead, or not? Yeah. So our opponent could shock the Riddle form here, so we've kind of priced ourselves into blocking with it. Maybe we weren't supposed to activate it, but I just sort of autopiloted there. So our opponent always has the option to trade the Immolator for the Riddle form, and we need to double block the Chorister in order for that to die. So we're definitely doing that. And then I think we do this to make sure the Immolator gets off the board. And we have a goblin left at the end of the day. Okay, so we can Magmut here. That threatens to trade with the Shaman, and I think we're just going to get in for 4 in the air. We have to start developing a threat. And yeah, Roman Ghostlight's a good draw. That's going to buy us some tempo back. Oh dear, dub. And an Anaki Ogre. So, looks like we're going to be taking 6 here. Because I'm not chump blocking. Because we can bounce it, we have a block on the Ogre. And the more creatures we have in play, the better Frost Breath gets. So I think we're going to Ghostlight this turn. We're going to trade the Magmut for the Ogre. And then we're going to get Frost Breath going. And hopefully we can push through those last points of damage we need. Our opponent doesn't have to attack here, but we're not going to activate it. We're going to block before we activate. Thank you very much, Magic Arena. Okay, Read the Tides is not the worst draw in the world. So we have the option of trading the Glidemaster for the Battle Rattle Shaman. And I think I like that option because then we can get a clean board for the Read the Tides. So because they haven't attacked, if we Frost Breath, we only can die to a haste creature or another burn spell for 4. And the chances they have 2 Volcanic Geysers is quite small. And because we've got 7 damage on board, they have to draw another blocker. So yeah, we have now turned around the race. And yeah, Mistral Singer means that a removal spell doesn't save them anymore. And yeah, we see if our opponent can kill us, and if not, we swung that race, and we're up to 3-0. So yeah, very happy with that one. Looked like we were pretty far behind, but we just about stabilised and turned around the game very quickly before our opponent could rebuild. And that's the power of what Blue-Red can do in this format. Alright, we're on the draw, and we are missing red mana, but we do have a 2-drop into a 3-drop, so we're definitely not mulliganing this. We have plenty of time to draw our red mana because our deck is definitely biased blue. And to be honest, the way this draw is shaking up, we can win it without drawing red mana at this rate. If we just curve out into double Ghostlight, that beats some opponents. And there's the red mana, so all is good. Our opponent has played down Malefic Scythe, which is a very threatening card, but without any creatures it doesn't really do all that much. And our opponent hasn't really progressed their board for the first 3 turns. So what could this be? This could be a rewind, could be a cancel, and there's not really any need to play the Rousing Reed now, so I'm just going to get in, see what our opponent does. And because the priority windows on Arena didn't really indicate our opponent had anything to cast, I think that means they're holding up a counterspell, so we're not going to do anything. Now our opponent has to make the choice to hold up counter magic or affect the board, and the likelihood is they can't do both. Archfiend Vessel technically counts as affecting the board, on the basis that it blocks our Glide Master. And they've equipped, so that means that they can't have Rewind, but they could still have Cancel. So we're going to throw a possibility, see if it gives them the option to counter it. And I think we're going to discard Island, because the odds of us drawing another land are pretty good in 3 draw steps. We don't want to draw too many more. Our opponent didn't get a window to counter it, so we're just going to go slide things up. It's not as good as against Dubs, but it still means our opponent needs to spend mana and time scything things, and we've now got 5 power in the air. We're going to have a lot of power in the air next turn. Five, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's just double checking that we didn't have a lethal there. But it seems pretty easy to just Ghostlight one of their creatures. They have to block with the other one, realistically. And I'm going to bounce the Larcenist, because that's the one that gets them back into this game, and offer the trade for our Glide Master, which they will take, but they take 4 damage overall. They're facing down plenty of flying damage on the board. We've got Rousing Reed for a prowess trigger and an extra damage. So yeah, it looks like this deck's actually doing pretty well, and a lot of that has been down to the pair of Roaming Ghostlights, like I identified at the beginning. They're cards that you can really push an aggressive strategy. We've drawn another bounce spell. Boing! Oh, that's what I mean though. Good tempo draw, bouncing all of our opponent's things, and by taking a single turn off, they fell too far behind. Nice easy win, gets us to 4-0. Okay, so we're on the play for game 5, and our hand's not altogether that good. It can very easily go wrong. And I think our good draws are good enough. They can win off 6 cards, so I'm going to mulligan here. Yeah, this one's much better because it's got more outs to be good, essentially. So we're going to keep that. I think I'm putting the Wizardry on the bottom, as it's probably the worst card in our hand at executing a game plan. But yeah, we're still going to need to draw some cards for this hand to be functional. Primarily mountains. Our opponent's off to a slow start, so we have hopefully got a little bit of time. And we've drawn Volcanic Salvo, which is probably going to be fantastic at some point. But we're going to need to draw mountains pretty quickly. And it looks like we're not doing that. Oh well, one of those things, you mulligan, you keep a 6 within the realm of reasonable, and it's just not quite getting there. We've got Frostbreath to buy some time, and Ghostlight to swing the board. Yeah, Fierce Empire finding its new best friend, Colossal Dreadnought. Alright, step 1. We're going to play the Weird because they're not going to threaten us enough that we want Frostbreath this turn. Shock is pretty brutal, if I'm completely honest. That's about the last thing we wanted to see. Okay, so it didn't hit that land drop, so it gives us a little bit more time for the incoming Dreadnought. Another Fierce Empath. They got another Dreadnought? What's that? Hellkite Punisher. Okay, so we're really going to want to try and line up this salvo to deal with both of these creatures. So we're just going to play the Magma here, play defensively, try and build out a board, not take too many trades. We're going to Ghostlight whichever one of these they play this turn. Just buy ourselves time to hit our land drops, hit some creatures, and then build to our Volcanic Salvo. Oh, are we going to get Ranger's Guild? We are going to get Ranger's Guild. Okay. Well, that's not too bad. We've got some life to play with. But the fact is now, oh no, it's +1/+1 temporarily, thank goodness. And our Volcanic Salvo is now castable. We just have to not have any of our creatures die. So we take a healthy chunk of 6 damage. And we hope our opponent doesn't have more Ranger's Guiles. It's possible I've missed a Magma trigger here or there. And on the basis that I've got life to play with, I think we can try and bait another Ranger's Guile out of our opponent's hand. It looks like they don't have it, so we're going to bounce the Punisher, get him for 3 damage, take another 6 off the Dreadmaw. But then our Volcanic Salvo is going to be very cheap, and there's a chance we can double spell next turn. And it also minimises our clock for our opponent to rebuild. Maximises our clock for our opponent to rebuild. Pride Malkin's pretty good. I'll give them that. So we might need to use Frost Breath to buy some more time, but we are going to blow up our opponent's 2 big creatures. We are going to get in for 6 damage, and I missed the Magma trigger again, didn't I? Activated ability. Gotta be careful to do that. We're going to Frost Breath here. Opponent should probably be attacking. Mauler's not something I'm concerned with. They've gone past attacks, so we're just going to ping now. So Arena auto passes for us. We'll start with Throw Possibility with no prowess effects. We can draw into a Rousing Reed. We didn't, but we get another thing to sort of jam up the board. Get in for 6 in the air. And now Magmot's lethal, as long as we don't die. And there we have it! Roman Ghostlight wins us another game that was looking pretty hairy. And we're up to 5-0. Alright, and we have the opposite problem this game, where we've only got red lands, but with a 2-drop and double 3-drop, and very good 3-drops at that, we're going to keep this 7. We have plays, and if we were going to draw a blue card, at least Rousing Reed's one that follows up the Spellgorger Weird very nicely. Our opponent might be having a similar problem, only drawing mountains, but they didn't have a 2-drop, so that's alright. Yeah, Quirion Dryad, not the most exciting of turn 3 plays, because we get to get in and develop our board. And it's going to probably take a couple of turns for the Quirion Dryad to be a threat in of itself. And they've got their own Spellgorger Weird. And yeah, we're going to take 2. And we're going to try and race this, I think. So does that mean playing our second Spellgorger Weird, or does it mean growing ours and getting in, offering a trade with the Magnet? On the basis that I think we want lands, and we can dump this Arcanist, I'm going to Rousing Reed. And this gives us a 4-power flyer. I think I'd rather play an Arcanist than Wizardry this game. Do we attack with Magmart? Chances are our opponent can play a red spell next turn, so I don't think we're blocking. So we try to race, and if you're racing, Frost Breath is a card that can do a lot of work. There we go. Track down grows the weird. So maybe we could have been able to block the Magmut on the Querying Drag, but our opponent doesn't like what they see and have called it a day. So an anticlimactic round 6 puts us to a 6-0, meaning we get a shot at the very nice 7-0. Alright, this is a pretty nice hand for round 7. We have both our weirds and a spell to activate them on turn 4. Looks like our opponent's also playing blue-red. We're going to put a land on the bottom because we don't need a 5th land desperately enough to keep it at this point. Looks like our opponent might get a few hits in though before we can build up our board, but that's fine. They're spending Crash Through here. That's fine by me. Seems particularly aggressive, using 3 cantrips for just the 3 prowess triggers. But maybe they were looking for lands. Who knows? Hard to judge. Discarded an Igneous Cur. Okay. There's the 2-drop, a turn too late. And yeah, I think we're just developing a weird. Not ideal. Scorching Dragonfire is pretty hard to avoid with our draw. And another Crash Through. This is getting pretty scary now. An Experimental Overload is going to make a very big token. So at least we've got some nice clean bounce spells to answer it. I've discarded another Crash Through. My opponent's deck is bonkers. What is Baron for any Experimental Overload shenanigans? And they've left up a mountain, which could mean shock. But I don't think we can afford to play around it too much at this point. They don't have a shock at least, and we've drawn our 5th land, which is good, because now it means we get that double spell next turn. That has another removal spell, so good for them. We get to filter their draw a bit more. They haven't decided a single land so far yet, so hopefully this means they can flood out in a late game. Discarded a Mistral Singer, blimey. Right, so I think we'd rather develop the board than use a Soulseer on the Jeskai Sage. We'll go with that. We could do with that land at this point, but oh well. Just kind of a Riddle form, okay. So Soulseer's an instant, so we're going to try and line that up on the Riddle form, which means how are we attacking? If our opponent has a spell for the Riddle form, we get to kill it, and if they don't get an attack. So I think we're just going to attack with Baron. Could be wrong. Maybe we're supposed to just try and race hard there. Oh, our opponent doesn't have a spell. So do we want to just use the mana aggressively? They haven't played a land. What does it mean they have? Probably counter magic, so I think I'm just not going to do anything. But do we want to just trade for the counter magic on a turn where it's advantageous for us? And got 4 power on the board against their 3, so it'll be 14 against 11. Yeah, I think we're going to go for it. Try and spend our mana when it's awkward for them to counter something. Alright, Goblin Wizardry's an unusual thing to play at that exact moment, because now I think we can just play defensively and play to our Kraken. It means our opponent's going to need to play more creatures in order to bust through it, and that means Volcanic Salvo is going to do a job. And if they don't play anything, we can tap down one of their goblins and get in with the Kraken holding back one of our 2-drops, which means they'd need 2 spells to get through it. Or we could just rise the tides. There's the experimental overload we were expecting. What are they going to get back? Probably the Soul Seer, I guess. Maybe a Scorching Dragonfire. Could even be a Crash Throw at this point, actually. Or an Opt, yeah. Because that's going to make these 3 power. They don't attack with them, at least. We take our 3. And we ping our opponent. I think we're going to read the tides here. Bounce these 2. Get in with the Kraken and one of our 2-drops. We are running low on cards, so maybe we're just supposed to play defensively for a turn. Draw 3 cards. I think we need to play defensively. We can just jump block the weird. Oh no, that's really not what we wanted to see. Although if we didn't draw those 3 cards, we'd have drawn them over the next few turns and probably still died. So this probably works out for us best in the long run if we survive. We're going to have some pretty gnarly blocks here, actually. The fact our opponent's kept on top probably means it's another spell. And yeah, Capture Sphere pretty much is lethal, because we're going to have to go down to 2 and double chump block. So yeah, we didn't quite get there this game. See us getting past this. No, we don't want to tap anything down. So we can get Soul Seer back. Block this. So if our opponent doesn't have a spell to activate their Riddle form, we can survive, but they're almost certainly going to be able to do so. They just need a prowess trigger on a wizard. And turn to slag will do. So yeah, our opponent had a pretty nuts looking deck. And it has done the job. Maybe we got greedy drawing those 3 cards, but as we saw, we wouldn't have won anyway. Doesn't mean we get to be results oriented, but we can at least commiserate ourselves. Alright, so for our second shot at the 7 wins, we've got a nice opening hand. We're on the play. Nice little Magmut into Singer Curve. Opponent's got a Goblin Arsonist though, which does trade for our Magmut. Which means I think we're just going to play out Riddle form. We're not going to activate it anytime soon, but Magmut doesn't actually do anything on this board. And it looks like we found another blue-red deck. Although if they're playing a Goblin Arsonist, they're not as good as the previous one. Are we going to be Lofty Denialed? No. Good. Thank goodness. Frantic Infantry, though. Nice card. Don't remember seeing any in our draft, actually, which is interesting. But yeah, because we'd have taken them. Oh well. That's how it goes sometimes. So, yeah, it looks like we're just playing Magmut here and attacking. because Magmar should be sufficient to block the Larcenist. They get to draw a card. So I haven't really seen the Larcenist do too much more than that. Well, it looks like they've got a pump spell. So yeah, fair enough. So we haven't got any spells in the bin yet, so we don't really want to be playing the Shipwrecked Drowser, so let's just bounce through Larcenist. Keep our opponent from getting their card draw train going. Peck in for a little bit more damage. They discarded a Waker of the Whales. Waker of the Whales? Waker of the Waves that is a whale. And yeah, it looks like we're getting Ghostlighted. I'll trade Baron for the Goblin Arsonist though. Seems like an acceptable trade at this point. And we're going to jam the Kraken. Just use our mana efficiently, so hopefully we can use Riddle Form to get some spells going. Our opponent has plenty more cards than us though, so gotta be careful. We're just going to play out two creatures here. They line up well against our opponent's board, so nothing too scary. And I think I'm just going to hold back. If we draw any spell, we should be doing pretty well. You kind of don't want to trade off too many things, because otherwise we can have Volcanic Salvo be underwhelming. Looks like our opponent's going to get back Sure Strike, which makes combat an absolute nightmare. And it looks like we have to trade Mistral Singer for Sure Strike. It is what it is. Mountain's a pretty crummy draw. So yeah, we're going to play a mountain and we're scrying twice. Not particularly exciting. But hopefully we can find something that does something. Rain of Revelation is not what you want to see. Gets 6 in the air and doesn't need to worry about any ground creatures. So we need to find some removal. And now they're going wide as well. We're looking pretty dead. So realistically now we need to kill one or both of their flying creatures. Oh, there's the salvo. Huh. So how much does it cost? It costs us -6, so it costs us 6 mana. So yeah, we can cast it. We probably just keep it on top then. And then next turn we can Shipwreck Dowser. We're not attacking, so no need to tap anything. And then next turn, actually on the basis we're not blocking, we get in with the Riddle Form. We need our opponent to not have a spell. But we have an out, and next turn the salvo only costs 2, but unfortunately we are dead. So yeah, it looks like what we're learning here is playing blue-red is a good idea, and hopefully getting paid off in the draft a bit better than we were, because our opponent's decks have so far looked kind of better than ours. Okay, so this is an interesting hand. On the draw, when our opponent keeps 7, I think this hand's probably just a bit too slow. So I think we're unfortunately going to have to mulligan it, even though it's lands and spells with both our colours. I don't think this is good enough. Maybe I'm respecting my opponent too much, but I'm going to mulligan it. I'm going to keep this hand. We're going to dump through the possibility. Because we can cast the rest of our cards all their ridiculous bombs. No 1-drop from our opponent is good news. No 2-drop from our opponent is even better news. I'm going to play out the Arcanist, I think, because that means we get to play Wizards next turn if we draw a mountain. Just gives us the most options, and we're not going to be attacking with Riddleform next turn, so there's no point in playing that. Makeshift Battalion is fine. We can trade an Arcanist for it in all likelihood. In the best case scenario, probability our opponent has something to buff it is quite high, though. It looks like they're casting something on it. Okay, putting a counter on it with Primalkin does get it through. We're really going to need to draw some lands. I think I'm going to play out the Riddleform here, rather than just cast a Frost Breath for time buying purposes. Oh dear. Bazu's Acolyte is not what you want to see. And we're double blocking. Down to 11 already. Oh dear. We're definitely Frost Breathing this turn. Yeah, we got a 3/3 flyer. That's not going to do anything. So we're going to decline in case they have sorcery speed removal. Oh dear. Well, this one's not going our way by the looks of things. That's a brave attack. Yeah, you can have it. Yeah, there we go. And there's the mountain. Alright, so what can we do? I think what we can do is cast Wizards and use Riddleform to ambush the Bazu's Acolyte is our best line. And then who knows? Revitalize, okay. That's not a particularly good card in your green-white deck. Conclave Mentor is a very good card in your green-white deck, because that means the Battalion's going to get 2 counters on it. Oof. Alright, they do attack with everything. So we block here, and we chomp block here, and we take 1. Alright, another land, another chomp blocker, which I think is going to be the Singer. I mean, the Wizard's going to do the chomp blocking. That's alright by me. It means we don't trade off any of our other boards, which hopefully gets us closer to casting a Salvo. Alright, there's the mountains. So we're going to start with the best card in our deck to reset the board in our favour. And can we start attacking? I don't think we can, but that's not a problem because land lets us play the Volcanic Salvo next turn, which will kill 2 creatures, leaving them with a 1/3, and then we can start turning the corner. So as long as they don't put 5+1/+1 counters on their creatures, which even for green-white with Conclave Mentor is a challenge. They are tapping their mana very deliberately, so probably means they get multiple things to do. Okay, Pride Malkin is pretty good. And I think if we block with everything, it's a 1-for-1 trade. Which I think is acceptable, but then we're further from playing the Salvo. And the Pride Malkin gives everything trample. Combat Tricks we basically can't beat at this point. But if they had one, they'd probably attacked with the Mentor. Alright, I'm going to block with everything. I don't need to, but the Arcanist is the redundant piece of the block. And if they choose to kill the Arcanist, that's great, because that's the card I care about least in this draw, I think. It should kill the Ghostlight, which is obviously the worst for us because it has the most power, and therefore Salvo's not doing anything. Alright, that's a reasonable compromise. Okay. So I think we're going to cast Weird and Crash Through. That's the most power on the board, and if we had triple red I'd consider waiting, because then we activate the Riddle Form, which would then count towards the Salvo. But we're just going to attack with Riddle Form here. If we have to trade off the Ghostlight, then we have to trade off the Ghostlight, so be it. This is going to be a 5 power Trampler, so we have to block with a Weird and the Arcanist. Oof. This Salvo is getting quite awkward. Looks like our opponent's doing the maths. But the Kraken's going to hold down the ward when we get to cast it next turn if we don't get to cast the Salvo, and it looks like our opponent has given us the window to Salvo, so we're going to take it and leave them with a Pride Malkin. And now we close the door as quickly as possible, I think. So we're definitely attacking with the Flyers. And they've only got one card which didn't do anything for them, so I think we're just going to get aggressive. They're dead in 2 turns this way because Roaming Ghostlight does a job. Okay, looks like the Legion's Judgment was what they had stuck in hand. They're not threatening us, so I'm going to take this opportunity to deploy the Kraken. Sorry, release the Kraken, as is the technical term. Another battalion's not too threatening. We can bounce it. I'm just going to do this because we can. See if they wanted to chump block with the Pride Malkin. We're going to hold up a Scorching Dragonfire that our opponent doesn't know we don't have. And we've got there. We've got the 7 wins. Oh, looked extremely hairy there for a moment. But yeah, that's an exciting little draft for you. So let's have another look at the deck. Yeah, overall I was pretty happy with it. The Wizards didn't do their explosive aggressive thing that they are capable of doing, but they were good blockers. And being a spell definitely mattered more than playing a Wishcoin Crab or a Turret Ogre. And yeah, although we didn't get a lot of bonker stuff, we had two decent rares that, yes, they were awkward on occasions, but our Roman Ghostlights definitely carried the day there. And yeah, this is what I mean, that most of the games we won were because we had Roman Ghostlights. And that specific cards are going to matter more in your draft decks, and you should play towards them. So yeah, that's the lesson from this draft, I suppose. Play blue, play Roman Ghostlight. Have a good day, everyone. Enjoy.